Welcome to the World of Art with Paul Crimi. Today I bought a little photograph of a garden and I'm going to paint it. I have a black canvas behind me and I have a great crew here. So this is going to be fun for all of us and you'll love what the colors are on this particular photograph is small. I should have brought a bigger one, but I think you'll love what it's going to come out like. Okay, we're going to get started. All I need is some brushes. I got a few of those. All right. Okay. When you start something like this, the best thing is I have this black canvas because it intensifies the color. And I love something that intensifies the color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bunch of different greens, starting with a darker and getting a little lighter. And I'll dry it with my hair blower. And we'll get it to, the hair blower only helps me to move faster in the sense that if I have a certain time limit, and this is a time limit type thing, doing this particular show with these great people, Paul and Carol and Heather and Kevin. They're great people and they love to see this stuff come on and get involved in the colors. Nice. And you know, so when you're doing the background and you're doing all of this stuff that gets you to going, don't worry about how it works, just put it down. I tell people they think too much, just paint. Sometimes thinking gets in the way, especially when you got a bunch of people like I have here. They're all great and they're not going to get in the way. In this particular photograph, it has a lot of black at the top of the canvas, which is the back of the garden. And so I love it. I've done this a couple of times. It's one of my favorite photographs, and I've sold this painting 4 or 5 different times. There's something about me, if I get into loving the particular subject matter, speak about birch trees. You know, I wound up doing 137 birch trees, and I've only got like maybe 8 or 9 left. There's something about these birch trees that I fell in love with, and I was off and running. All right. Okay. Paint's a little transparent today, sort of disappeared. I'll have to just put another coat on, maybe use a different tube. You know, all of these paints, my friends make fun of me because I use these real cheap paints. They say, you're a great artist and you should use more expensive paints. Why should I pay more expensive paints? So what I do is I mix the paints with the gesso. And that's why I don't use expensive paints, because I like to mix, and which I didn't do a minute ago. And so when I mix it with the gesso, I get a real solid color. So that's something you should think about if you're going to do painting. And start by doing this. I tell my students and people that I've taught throughout the years, the gesso gives it a nice base. That's what they put on the canvas when they paint the canvases, to hold up, to take away the quality of the material. I'm sitting down. Most of the time when I'm in my studio, I stand up, and I have a big easel, and I have this really nice studio in 1000 Main Street in Hanson. Fabulous. It's the best studio I've ever had. I had one in the Codman building, and it was like 4,000 square feet. That was a nice studio, but it was always freezing. The landlord didn't like to put any heat in the building. Swear to God. We were in that building for 18 years. It's a crazy place. Now it's condos. Like everything, any building that has any life or quality. The ones in Whitman, the same thing. They did the same thing with the buildings. They made them into condos. The same people came along and grabbed them and made them into condos. And they're nice, don't get me wrong, but when you're an artist and you need a place and you had a nice big space like that, hated to give it up. And I had to sell my etching press, and I had to wait 12 years before I got another one. I was like a little kid in the candy store. I couldn't touch the candy. I loved doing etchings. I still do them. In fact, I went out and bought another one. And I bought it when I'm 76, so I bought it when I was 73, 3 or 4 years ago. And my oldest son says, "Dad, you're getting too old to do this." I said, "What are you, nuts?" Just because you're got a number on your back of your back, wherever you want to call it, doesn't make you that. What makes you that is the attitude. You know, just keep thinking and doing what you want to do. Don't let anybody talk you out of what you're doing. Now see, this is the background, so this is just getting it ready to put the garden on top of it. And I really know that the gesso makes the paint dry faster too. That's another thing. There's always these little things that I've discovered along the way, and it makes it so much easier. Well, there's a lot of people who don't want to paint fast. My son makes fun of me. He says, I go like this when the canvas is done. Well, every artist has his own way of painting. I've watched some paintings by Monet and Van Gogh and, no, not Van Gogh, Monet and Picasso and a lot of those artists, and they all worked at a certain way. And that's the way you should work, whatever you feel comfortable at. I hate oil paints because they take forever to dry, if they ever dry at all. They take years. I don't want to wait years. I don't even want to wait hours or half an hour. I want 5-10 minutes, and I want to start doing the painting. Nice. I can see it's better already. Let's see if we can do something now. Come on. All right. Let's find some smaller brushes. I think I threw them in this. I did. All right. Oh, I've taken some of this fleshy colored paint and mixed it with this other paint because I wanted it to have a quality. So these are all the stems to the flowers, and you're going to see me do this 3 or 4 times. I'm going to go over it and over it and over it, throwing in a little more green because it got a little outrageously white. That's a little better. And these lights that are beaming down upon my bald head here are making me feel warm, but it changes the dimension and the color of the colors that I'm using, so I have to keep adjusting it. So you see how I got away from the real white on this side, and this is a little greener. Nice. That brush is a little too big. I want to get a smaller one. There we go. Nice. And realize something, you're the artist. You're doing it. Don't listen to anybody else. Everybody has a comment to make. And 99% of the time, the people making the comment never paint in their life. They all think that they're the museum curator and they have the answer. And this is what you should do, and this is what you should do, and this is what I like. And listen, they're not painting the painting, you are. And paint the painting for yourself. And people say to me, well, I don't know if I ever can paint. The paintings don't come out that good when I do. Hey, it takes time. You didn't learn how to drive a car the first time you sat behind the wheel or the first time you got on top of a bicycle. Everything takes a little bit of training and a little bit of time. In my 76-year-old arms are getting worn out. You know, they told me at the VA, both my shoulders are so bad they couldn't even replace them unless they took them out and put new ones in. So I probably worn them out. I was a hairstylist for 42 years, and then I've been doing this since I was 5. So, you know, they should get worn out. It never looks like anything. That's what I love about this, because everything that I do always looks so abstract. I say, oh my God, what am I doing here? You don't think I don't question myself as I go along. Baloney. Everything's a question. A million questions. What I'm doing is I'm trying to take off some of the bulky paint. And see what I'm doing now is I'm going back and I'm putting a little darker green on the bottom. As it goes higher up, the color should stay lighter, and as it's down on the bottom, it should be darker. So your mind and your eye is pulled around by the way that the artist is painting the painting. Carol, she knows that. She sees me do this all the time. She's excellent. She just gives me that great smile. Nice to have people around that help you do this too, because it's not easy to do. But nothing that's good is easy to do. The stuff that's the hardest is the best. And then it's really hard. Like, I'm very proud of my grandson. He just graduated from the Marines down in South Carolina. Now he's going to go to North Carolina. And then he's going to go to California, and he's got this incredible situation going for himself. Very intelligent, brainly kid, computer type. Not many kids like him join the Marines. They're thrilled to have him. All right, that worked out perfect now. I'm going to keep that brush close to me. Get the blower. Sometimes the best brush you're ever going to have is your thumb. I couldn't believe it. I mean, you're going to find most of my thumb marks in my paintings someday when they examine them. Artistically, make sure they're done by me. All right, now we're going to do some flowers if we can. Let me see, that brush might be good. I don't know. Here you are. These flowers in this particular picture have a little bit of orange yellow, so I'm going to throw a little orange in with the yellow. And I'm going to throw a little white in with the yellow. A little more white. Okay, let's go to work here. You know, people will get up at me and they'll go right up to the canvas and they'll say, that doesn't look like a flower. All right, but if you're 5 feet away from it, it may look like a flower. You know, you can't listen to people. They can drive you nuts. And other artists are even worse because they're perfectionists. They have to draw it perfectly like a flower. I think that's stupid, but I'm being nice. And when they say something like that to me, I look at them and just smile and walk away. It reminds me of my drill instructor in the Marine Corps. So you do these little dots and these little flowers, and then you put the stem on last, or the pot on the bottom. And you know, when you're sitting here doing this, and even in my own studio, I'm forever getting up and walking back and looking at the canvas. So I'm going to do that in a second, but I don't want to get these people behind me with the cameras crazy with me walking away from the canvas. As soon as I get this somewhat down on the canvas, I'm going to do that. And right in here, they're close. They're all stuck together. If you saw the picture, they're right in this area here, they're all stuck together. And there's a little more orange in some of those. And so put a little dab of that, and you'll see it. Oh, nice. Oh, you're really good. Thank you. You know, this art business, you got to keep on encouraging yourself. When you're doing this, you got to keep on saying how great you are. Not because you are great, but because you're just trying to get yourself to be better. You can't sit there and say, wow, what a piece of junk this is. Oh, it's terrible. I'm not going to. That doesn't work. You have to say, oh, this is going to be fantastic. I can't wait for this. What's this going to look like when it's done? Oh, my God. It looks like the grass has measles. I love it. And, you know, and not doing any detail, too. That's another thing I want to say to you, too. You know, you do one thing first, then you go back and you do another thing. This is just the beginning. I'm just putting down the base colors, and I'm putting down the attitude of where I want to go to, and then it's going to get to a better spot. But when you're an artist and you're painting, you're not talking to anybody. You're just working on the piece. But if I'm doing this show and I'm not talking to you, you're going to go off and go out of the house and do whatever you're going to do. Or I'll go into the kitchen and have lunch. I mean, I used to watch Bob Ross, and I only watched him because I couldn't sleep most of the time. And within 5 minutes, he'd put me to sleep. So I don't know if I do that. I know that sometimes I do raise my voice, and I do try to change and do different things so that people will get caught up in the fact that they want to see what I'm doing. Ran out of paint. Not anymore. Oh, I've stopped talking for a second. I was looking at the paints, thinking about, how to do this particular spot, and now I've done it. And so it didn't have any flowers in this area, but you don't have to copy the photograph sometimes. You can do what you want. I've learned that along the way. Hey, please, you're in charge. When I was a youngster, I was watching that Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and he had this guy on, and this particular guy took balloons and he made them into sculptures. There's a lot of people that do that now, but back then, he was probably a forerunner. He was probably the guy. To be on TV, you had to be the best. So that's the guy he was. And Johnny Carson says to him, well, how do you know when you make a balloon thing like this that you're doing the right thing? He says, because I am the balloon man. I am the man in charge. This is my creation, and I know exactly what I'm going to do. That's the way you should have an attitude about everything you do in your life. You're in charge of that particular thing that you do. Like Carol's in charge of that camera, and Paul's in charge of that, and Heather's in the back room with Kevin, God bless her. He's driving up the street, I can tell. And all right, so we're getting this. So let me dry this a little now. And I'm going to stand up. Now let me get back a little and talk to you. Look at, see, when I was pushing that stuff on the canvas with the brush, it's making little tiny indentures. And that gives us like a little cup effect. It makes it feel, to me, like a flower. And so when I add the stems and all that stuff, and I add all of this, let me get the photograph. And I add on all of the stuff in the photograph, up the top and on the bottom, all of those flowers are going to look more like a flower. But step by step, in a situation like this, it doesn't look like it's going to work. It looks like it's stupid. But when I start adding all the stuff, now I'm going to stop with the flowers. I'm going to add all the stuff up the top. And it's going to change the feeling of the painting again. And then when I get to the end and I go back and I go over the flowers and the stems, it's going to change completely again. So every time we do something in a painting, it changes the painting. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm going to put this where I can see it. In mixing your colors too, this was a shade, and I mixed it with the darker green, with a light green, and I mixed, because this is all light up here, and then there's this big dark spot right in there. So I'm going to throw in some darker green, probably mix it with another color. So it goes all the way over here. We've got 30 minutes already. Oh my goodness. I'm never going to get done with this painting today. Oh my God, it's already 30 minutes. So when you do something like this, it takes a certain amount of time. An hour doesn't seem like anybody can do anything in an hour. But I'll have to move it a little faster here. Sort of lackadaisical sitting here enjoying this whole situation. I will get serious and I will start. I have to stand up a little. I think sitting down is just slowing me down a little. I feel like okay. All right. I'm going to have to start acting like I've got some time to paint this, and I'm going to have time to paint it. I'm mixing a little purple with the green to give it so you can see these stems. Maybe I should go a little lighter so you can see them. Yeah, that's better. So you start doing stuff like this and you start to see this painting take a life of its own really quickly. And this is when I love doing this, because when I've done this, and it jumps out at you, and it really has a nice feeling. Then I'm excited. Because I'm always excited anyways. I love doing this. I started painting when I was 5 years old. They didn't find out I was totally deaf until I was 12. So I had a really good childhood. The nuns had a field day with me because I never did anything they wanted me to do because I didn't hear them. I'll tell you a funny story. I was in East Boston with my parents and my brothers and sisters, my sister, and went to a Catholic school. And one day I decided I wanted to go to Revere because of the amusement park, and two of my friends went with me. And I'm 7 years old, and they're 7 years old, and talk about growing up quick. And we get there, and of course, it's school time and the park's closed. So we go out on the breaker wall, and we're going to have a good time out there, and the tide comes in. Oh, so we're stuck out there. So here's the Herald, the American, all the newspapers from Boston, standing there taking pictures of the three kids stuck out on this breaker wall. And of course, the next day, the Mother Superior is holding the Herald paper right up in front of my face and my two friends. And she says, these two do whatever you do. And so you're the ringleader. Of course I'm the ringleader, but they didn't have to go. And she says to me, you're going to get expelled and they're going to get a detention. And of course, I'm 7 years old and I have no idea what expelled is. And I say to the nun, what's that mean? She says, that means you're never going to you can't go to school here anymore. And I turned to my two friends and I said, see, when I told you a year ago, a while back, when you really need God, he shows up at the right time. And then she says to me, put out your hands. And I says, oh no, they're expelled. When I said that, my two friends fell on the floor laughing, and she threw them out of the office. And she wrote my mother a note saying that I was a fresh little kid and that I should be spanked. And then she said I called her a penguin. I don't remember calling her a penguin, but maybe I did. I think I might have said, I'm not letting you penguins hit my hands with the rulers anymore. So that's the kind of a kid I was. Oh, my God. But my father, my mother says, to Joe, you have to give him a spanking because he called the nun a penguin. And my father says, okay, you go in the bedroom and I'll get the belt and I'll come in and I'll take care of that. And I go in the bedroom, like he says. He comes in and he says, when I hit the bed, holler. This is the kind of situation I had with my dad. My dad always treated me different than he treated all the others. I don't know why, but maybe he thought I was kind of wilder and more fun than my brother was a mummy's boy and my other brothers. Well, Michael was only a little baby, and Joey was a baby, even though he was a year younger than me. Good. All right, so now I'm starting to give this painting some real life. I mean, you saw me do it really quick and really fast because I got nervous when they showed me I only had 30 seconds left, or 30 minutes. So painting is something you can do, and you can do it any way you want. And you know something? I saw this show this morning, well, no, yesterday. I love watching that Sunday show on Channel 4 at 9 o'clock. And they had a whole thing about Monet and how Monet's paintings, they started becoming the paint instead of the subject matter. And I think that should happen to every artist. I think that's what's happening to me as I get older and older and older. I can paint a painting and make it look perfectly like a photograph. But the camera does a photograph. What the hell do I need to do a photograph for? You know, I don't need it. I want to do a painting. I want it to have some personality. I look at these paintings and they're absolutely magnificently painted like a photograph. I'm not impressed by it. Photorealism. So what? The camera can do that. I want the painting to make me feel like I'm present in the painting. I want to sit there somehow and feel, or stand there and stand in front of that painting and say, I do that with my etchings. I say, oh my God, look at the personality this particular print has. They're completely whacked, completely different than anything you'll ever see. But they tell you a story. You look at them long enough and you start to say, my goodness, how could he think of something like this? I don't think at all. I just do. Thinking gets in the way of doing. You're going to do something in your life, don't think too much about it, just do it. Because most of the time you think so much you stop to do it. It doesn't work. I say, you know, there's doers and there's thinkers. And then there's thinkers that think they're doers. So I'm starting to make this look like a garden, I hope. And I'm putting in all of this. I'm not even looking at the stuff that's in here, but I'm going to throw in this. I want you to feel like I'm putting a little red in because, you know, red is so passionate and it's so strong and it pulls you around. I put some blue in too. That's another one. And I put it by the orange. And so I know, and I've done this for all my life, when you put certain colors together with other colors, it intensifies the whole entire painting, not just that little dab of whatever you're using. Everything that you do has a reason to do, and it has a meaning. You stand in front of a painting and you start to say, what does he have to say here? And he's trying to say it with the colors, trying to bring your eye around to what he's doing so that you are starting to see it. We must be getting there. I can hear him hollering in the back room. I love it. So what I've done is I mixed the blue with the green. I want to put a little depth in here, a little darker green. By putting darker greens against the light, I just got a cramp in my hand. Ugh. I take magnesium to get rid of cramps. Oh my God. I take 1 or 2 pills a day and it's great. I know it's nice getting old. I know, I had a friend of mine who was a leaded glass window maker, and he used to say to me, I met him when he was in his late 80s, and I was friends to him until he was 97. And he used to say, Paul, I'm going to tell you something. When you get into your late 80s and early 90s, you get these weird cramps. He says, pick up magnesium and take some 1 or 2 a day, and it will help you get over those things. I get those cramps in the middle of the night. I have to get out of bed, and it's like, oh my God, what is this? A visitor? Unbelievable. This is starting to look really nice. You know what I recommend too? If you're going to take up painting, go out and buy a reducing mirror. It's a mirror that you put in front of the canvas, and it pushes the canvas way back. Instead of me running back in the back room to see how this looks. I mean, I had an artist friend of mine, and she was having a terrible time with certain things. And I said, you know what you need? You need a reducing mirror, and you need to hold that up at a certain time and look at the painting and to see what needs to be adjusted. I squint my eyes, and it probably hurt my eyes by squinting them so much that I wound up wearing glasses. I never had to wear glasses. Now I have to. Maybe it's because of my age, too. I don't know. But I'm going to stand up again. I'm going to go back here a little and look at the painting. Oh yeah, that looks like a garden. I think we got to make it a tiny bit brighter. So I mean, you know, you're sitting in this darkness of the camera, and you don't see some of the stuff that needs to be done. So sometimes you need to just get back from it, go back and do a little dab this and a little, not a lot. It's enough to draw your attention to a certain place, and it looks like flower. Has a feeling like a flower, maybe a flower. And so this is, my friend Evan, he used to say to me, it's the frosting on the cake. When you get to that stage in the painting, and that's the end of it, that's the frosting on the cake. And it took me years and years to understand what he was saying. And when I get there now, it's those finishing touches. You look at certain things like, I tried doing that. Let me do it some more. Making that green real dark. If I add a little red, maybe that'll make it. Yeah, that'll make it super dark. And you add red to green, it makes it real dark green, which is great. Because you're going to need some dark green in certain areas. All right, let's try this a little. I was talking about my son as the Marine. You know, my father was a Marine, and my brother Vinny was a Marine, and I was a Marine. I went to Parris Island in 1963 when President Kennedy got assassinated. I was sitting at the floor watching the TV with all of those Marines, and the tears were rolling down all of our faces because we just lost the president. So somebody assassinated him. It was a terrible experience. And they're running around loading up their guns like we're going to war. Oh my God. I had nightmares for years over that. Tell you. One other time in my life I had nightmares too was when Khrushchev was whacking his shoe against the table in front of Kennedy at the United Nations saying we're going to annihilate you with the atomic bomb. Of course he never did. It was a big bag of wind. But you know, stuff like that, and now these people in this stupid country, because of what Trump did with that guy who was a nasty killer who killed hundreds and hundreds of Americans, they're trying to make him a holy man. Oh my God, what's wrong with these people in this country? I'll tell you. That guy was planning on killing a bunch of our men. We're living in a funny time right now. You have to be very careful of what you say. You have to be very careful of what you do. Man, scary. So I'm going to do these little flowers, these little white flowers. They're tiny little dots. And they're all over this thing here, and they're going to be all over the canvas in a second or two, and then I'll step back because I'm running out of time, even though I'm very good at this. Time is better at everything. A whole life is run by time. That's why I don't wear a watch. I never used to have a clock. I have a clock in my studio, but I never know if it's right time. I think it never is. I think I let the batteries die on it. It's just a clock in the wall with no time. I love it. It's like I stop time in its place. Because I don't give a darn about time. I give a damn about doing. You know, think always that doing is so important, because when you think doing, things get done. If you don't think doing, nothing ever gets done. You come to my studio, 1000 Main Street in Hanson, and you walk around, you'll see that I keep myself totally into what I believe. and believe that art is something that I've been given a gift, and I've worked at it all my life, and it's something that I really love. I mean, even at 76, I get up every morning and say, what's going to go? What are we going to do today? And all of that. And even though I have a job, I work 3 days at Home Depot. I'm the greeter at the door. That's I'm paying back the money I spent to move to Hanson I borrowed from my wife. Well, that's finally paid off. But I like the job so much of meeting people at the door and saying hello that I think this come out pretty good. It's kind of like a garden. It's a little, I can go over and do some of this stuff now that I've got a few minutes left, and touch up some of the flowers. So this is the finishing touch. You go back and you whack it with the orange and the yellow, and all of a sudden they are more flowery. So nothing was done, and now it's going to get done, so that when you look at it, it has a three-dimensional feeling because I'm putting a lot more paint on this. In fact, I might go put this in the studio and I may work on it tomorrow or the day after and some more, and I'll bring it back when it's completely finished. Doing something in an hour is great, but it's never finished. It's always just a work in process. And as you get older and smarter, you start realizing that, some days when I'm doing the prints and I'm painting colors on the top, it'll take me the whole entire day putting dots to make this picture look like what I want. Same with this. So I'm adding this little color on top of the color that's there, and all of a sudden these dots look more like flowers. 10 minutes. Oh my God, I can do a lot in 10 minutes. Thank you, Carolyn. You are so sweet. God. Bikey Carolyn. I like it. I can see her doing that movie with those movie stars, with the motorcycles. God. I had a motorcycle for about 3 weeks, and I took a bad spill, and my wife was pregnant with our second child. We had 4 kids, and I was at hairdressing school, and she said, please, get rid of that motorcycle. I don't want anything to happen to you, because what am I going to do with 2 kids living in a project in West Quincy, in the VA project? Oh my God, seems like a million years ago. God. I was the type of guy who worked for years, saved up the money, bought the hairdressing beauty parlor, and then bought a house after that. I had to have a business first, and then I have to do things in a certain way, or it doesn't work for me. And my father said, that's the correct thing to do. Get the studio, get the business, and then you'll make the money and you'll buy the house. And so we've been in our house in Pembroke for, I think we bought the house in 71. I don't know how many years ago. It's like this crucifixion I did for St. Mary's Church. I put it up in 1980, and somebody said to me the other day, that's 40 years ago. I said, cut it out. Honest to God, that's the thing about getting old. When you get to be old, you don't think yourself old. At least you shouldn't. Because you walk around saying, I'm old, you become old. I don't even think about age. I don't talk about it, but I don't think about it. I have too much to do. And I want to do a lot more. I want to go back to Italy for a year. I want to sit in that Italian environment and paint. Italy. Italy. I was there for 21 days in 1974, and I took 2,500 pictures. And as many pictures as I took, I still thought I left too much of Italy behind. So we went back to Italy this summer with my son. We went on a cruise. And we went to Spain, and I got to see the Gaudi Cathedral. Oh my God, I've always wanted to see that. That was one of the reasons. I didn't want to go on the cruise. I don't like boats. I don't like being on the water. But my wife wanted to go, and I said, well, I wanted to see the Gaudi. He told me I could go see the Gaudi Cathedral. And that sort of made me feel more comfortable with going on a cruise. I think cruise ships are just places where people like to eat all day. Oh my God, I never saw much food in my life. Over and over. I'll have another dish. I'll have another dish of that. I'll have another. What is this? And you know something? Everybody gains about, they say 3 pounds a day. So if you're there for 14 days, that's a lot of weight. That's about 30 pounds. I gained 3 pounds, and my wife gained 2.5. So that tells you about the two of us. You know, even though we got married, I weighed 97 pounds, and my wife weighed 91. My thyroid had gone bonkers, and I lost all this weight. I had weighed 175 pounds when I was in the Marines. I graduated, I only weighed 127 pounds. The Marines made me eat 4 or 5 meals a day to gain weight because I was too skinny. Ugh. All right, let me take a look at this now. Again, I'm going to step back. Oh, yeah, it's starting to look like a real nice garden. I can still work on this some more. I can take this to the studio and I can work on it and I enhance it. I can throw in some stuff that's jumping out of the flowers. And when I bring this back, you're going to see it and you're going to say, that doesn't even look like the same painting. Well, it's always stuff you do when you get away from the TV show and you go back and you look and you see. Even this last 5 minutes of driving this canvas, it's going to make it easier for me to carry out of here. But I'll tell you something, if you went and came into the studio or watched the next show when I bring this back, you're going to see that this is going to look a little different because I'm going to darken in this area here. There's a little things, and I'm going to darken in over there some. I might even put some stuff at the top. But this is stuff, you can only do so much in an hour. Chase chase Carolyn around for an hour, or Heather. Heather's smart. She's hiding in the back room with Kevin. And my friends would say to me, how can you stand being a hairdresser working with women all day? I tell you, working with women's a lot better than working with a bunch of men. Oh my God. I tell you. My father was a barber. He wanted me to be a barber. And I said, no way. All they do is tell dirty jokes and they gamble. I don't want to do either. I want to paint and enjoy myself. And besides, by having the beauty parlor, I could put up my artwork, so I had a gallery at the same time. So we have 5 minutes, so I probably have a couple of minutes to talk. What I'm going to do is hold up the photograph, and I'm going to pull this around, and I'm going to get the chair out of the way, and I'm going to go towards Paul. So Paul, we had this photograph, and we had a black canvas, and now we have this photograph and the canvas. It's not exactly like the photograph, but everything that I do is never from a photograph, 3 minutes. So I have 3 minutes. So when you do a painting, just because you have a photograph, it doesn't have to be the photograph. This has a better personality. I like the way it's moving. You see, like there's almost like a breeze in this particular painting. Everything seems to be leaning this way. So when I get back to the studio and I work on it and I touch it up here and there, I'll leave it alone for a couple of days because I'm not doing this for 2 more weeks. And I'll look at it, and I'll have the picture beside it, and I'll look at it, and I'll say, what does this need? And so even when I've finished the painting, if it's still in the studio, and if I go by it someday and I say, oh, but that needs to be changed, I'll change it. So the best thing to me is to sell my paintings, and I don't touch them. But if they're still there, at any time, I'll take them off the wall. The only ones I don't mess with too much are the prints because they're so incredibly detailed. People say you're not the same person when you're doing the printing. No, printing is a whole nother place. Painting, you're just passing it on the canvas and making it do what you want it to do. So if I say to you, if you want to paint, just have the courage to pick up paints at Michael's or wherever you want to go. Start painting. In fact, be smart. See if you can get the black canvases. I think they're the best, but I haven't seen them at Michael's lately. I don't know if they stopped carrying them, but AC Moore carries them. I want to say thank you, God bless, and good night.